and welcome to the Studio's daily live review roundups. Got a special one today. I've got Ryan Fennin from New York. You may recognise Ryan from our Showtime series. I'm Hetty, editor at Show Studio. This is Josh and Matt.
Hi.
We thought it'd be fun to all get in the studio together while Ryan's in London and talk about a few of the shows from over the weekend. Kind of the main ones we want to talk about are Matty Bovan, Ashley Williams, Knowles and Paolo Carzana. Really, I was thinking about these shows in terms of kind of all of these brands who in their own way we kind of came up either in a DIY way or kind of, they really have all kind of represented that kind of creativity, if you will, of London that everyone kind of thinks of London kind of historically of being. And I felt like this season, it felt like they were all really establishing themselves as very much kind of a brand.
Yeah.
Especially kind of, I mean, I'm going to go backwards here, but I was at the Knowles show last night and they recently did a Jean Gaultier collaboration, which launched in New York. Last night was kind of very much about some of those staple kind of strappy lingerie pieces and the kind of sheer fabrics, but really pushing into kind of that Y2K kind of trend of kind of patina, kind of leather and mini skirts and that whole look. But it felt very kind of like, this is our brand and kind of pushing forward. And that's what really got me thinking about that. So I don't know what you guys think about that idea of kind of moving from being kind of a creative young designer to kind of establishing yourself as a brand. If you felt that over this weekend?
I definitely did. I think there's really almost two schools of thought in the shows that we're talking about today, and that Knowles and Ashley Williams, I think, really created collections that were pulled in aesthetically from what we've seen from them in the past, to the point where I thought it felt really approachable. It felt like the consumer will see these clothes and want to incorporate them into their lives and their wardrobes, especially
they're consumer ready.
Yeah, they're consumer ready, especially at Knowles, because I think a lot of their really interesting utilitarian strappy silhouettes were kind of pulled in a little, and obviously not in a bad way, just in a cleaner way, a more easily approachable idea of Knowles.
Felt very tight, kind of, this is Knowles, especially having like rebranded from Charlotte Knowles to Knowles over the last couple of years. Ryan, I'm really interested to hear what your kind of perception of especially Knowles is from kind of being based in New York.
Yeah, I always saw Knowles, like when it was Charlotte Knowles at opening ceremony, as like this really forward experimental like representation of London. And that's why I felt like the show last night was kind of seemed like they were trying to take themselves a little bit more seriously. And I feel like it was more subdued and pulled back in order to be approachable as well. That's kind of like the vibe that I got. It was a lot more, I feel like when I saw it in New York first, it was like, well, it was like on the edge. I don't know if this will appeal to everyone. Some of the pieces were really, really, really small and strappy and like really sexy, like nightlife, rave looking clothes. And I felt like this was still them using some of their best signatures, but not making it so extreme. Sure. Like the corseted motorcycle jacket that they always do. I feel like that was there, but it wasn't presented in a way where it's like, you can't really touch that. You can't really consider that.
I think it's interesting as well, especially with that show, that it's kind of these refined signatures in the clothing that you guys are mentioning, but also like very much product. Like you guys kind of Cuban here, vintage kind of mule boots, which they've kind of made a signature the last few seasons. Just those kind of products, and then I can't remember what they're called, but the kind of swooping bags that Knowles do. And it's like, obviously kind of accessories and products is like the key sell point. But I think that really shows you when you see that concise hole on the runway that like we're here, like the serious business.
Yeah, they want to be a real player within the game of fashion. And that means going beyond your art and your aesthetic and trying to reach as many people as possible.
Yeah, totally. What about Ashley Williams? I'm again interested to hear what you think about Ashley, just because for me, I feel like it's always been such a kind of into the London brand, but then the show I felt like was very kind of indie sleaze and Y2K facing and like kind of made for the internet and for a global audience. But I don't know, am I wrong? Was that kind of on your radar?
Yeah. Not really until I came here recently, and then I was like looking through some of the shows, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is cool. I feel like if people in New York, more people knew about it, they definitely would be really, really into it, because I do feel like it kind of captures the things that people like online. But I liked the show because it was very weird. It's like, wow, it's a weird one.
Yeah, they had her husband did the soundtrack, and it was like a remix of Britney Spears every time. But like none of the guys singing it, and like the first look was like the Grim Reaper, which also made me think about the Sims character, you know, some guys.
Yeah.
Reaper. I thought that was quite clever.
I thought it was really trendy. I thought it felt really like it was speaking to the chronically online generation with this mishmash of references. And I thought it was fun. I thought it was cute.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting as well because this is Ashley's first kind of show in a few years, and she did this with support Fashionista, who actually incidentally are kind of doing this new thing for their kind of alumni to support them, and incidentally the first one who received support was actually Knowles, I think last year. So Ashley had kind of an influx of funding from Fashionista, and then also UGG, who kind of there were these great kind of I Love Me UGGs in this collection. And I think it's interesting to see kind of why has Ashley Williams been picked to do that. You know, she was so popular in London a few years ago, hasn't really shown since before the pandemic, kind of has gone quite quiet. It was always kind of this kooky, weird brand, like the dresses with the dogs on, and it was always quite weird, and people loved it. And I did feel like it still had that weirdness, but it felt like, I think she did an interview with Vogue Business where she was saying everyone's kind of doing the aesthetic that she did before lockdown, and she wanted to do something a bit different. And I did think it still captured the weirdness, but it was definitely different to what she was doing before.
Yeah, I think it's, again, that idea of kind of restraining your creativity and driving consumable products that, again, a lot of people are going to see and want that t-shirt, want that hoodie, want those I Love Me Uggs. Because they're just fun and cool. And I think that's a really interesting direction that the brand would go in with this kind of Fashion East support. And it, again, like Knowles, is showing that no matter how kooky the brand is known as, to be a real player in the industry, I think you need to have something that's marketable and consumable.
I think that's also like the industry that we're in now, isn't it? Like, I think that's what I was thinking about really with this weekend was, when does that, I think that first there's like an expectation as soon as you leave uni that you have to have a brand, and actually there needs to be that space to be a designer and to think and be creative. But then do you have to kind of lose all that to become a brand and make a product?
Yeah.
What do you think, Ryan? I'm nodding away.
It's like hard, especially I feel like if she's coming back, it's hard to not reestablish yourself with what's going on in the zeitgeist that you know will work, and you know people will circulate online, or you know understand online, and so you kind of have to make these like tangible like shows, I feel. But I wish we give her the opportunity, or designers in general, the opportunity to establish themselves, be taken seriously, and then go back to being like artistic and creative. And I don't know, but it's hard because then you have to do that as a Molly every single season, go back and forth, like serious, crazy, just to like get funding, to have fun and experiment. It's just, I wish they had more freedom. Maybe they do.
That's actually kind of something that I felt really good about at the Matty Bovan show, because his slides this season felt like a complete kind of 360 in terms of just like letting his mind kind of go out, like paint on the canvas. So like, it was like all about these kind of 80s kind of prom dresses, and
it was like acidic colors and like this like just explosion of texture. That was
just so much fun. And I said to him backstage, I was like, it feels like you've had fun this season? And he was like, I had a lot of fun. And I think it's interesting with this, like, he was looking at this idea of kind of American prom dresses, and the idea that maybe there's something kind of sinister underneath, which I feel like there always is in Matty's work. But it made me think a few seasons ago, he did a very kind of America-focused show. He had like the American flag, and he was thinking about kind of Trump politics. And I think it's interesting to contrast that to this season, where there still might be those undertones, but it's actually him just having fun. And I think Matty's always managed to hold on to that idea of being like an artist first and foremost. And, you know, he's done kind of, you know, UGG collaborations, he's done kind of the bag thing and done shoes, but actually he's kind of always kept in the lane of being like, I want to just create.
Yeah. It's this like singular world that could only come from him and his brain. And it is that thing of why we love London fashion so much, is because there are these very creative people who are so uncompromising in their vision that we don't even care to have the business conversation because we're having so much fun seeing them build these worlds.
For sure, that's kind of why I love London fashion, because the emphasis is on the clothes. And I also feel like Matty's shows before have had kind of like arcs where it's like more subdued, and then throughout the collection it gets like more and more crazy. But I love that each look just was like an explosion of just like joy, craziness, happiness, like multiplicity. It was so, I don't know. I really like those bursts like in every single look, that it just makes the show so much more full, which makes to me the scene so much more full. It's just so delightful.
I think also like the casting of that show, like Richie Shazam, Cora Gray, who else was in it? Ashley Graham, like everyone very much took on their own kind of character. And he did this fun thing where he had some people kind of having dinner backstage before, and then some people kind of watching the show. And I was backstage while all the models were getting ready, and I've never seen such a like relaxed pre-show environment. And Matty was there having like a cocktail, and it's just like, this is like enjoyable and fun. And, you know, all the girls were really, and guys and whoever were just like, you could see that they were just having a great time in the clothes and were really excited about it. It wasn't like, go ahead, just sell this product.
Yeah. I guess it is just like, it's so great to see, but even thinking about Ashley Williams, like she did have that hiatus, and it is because the realities of working in fashion are so real and so harsh, that while designers like Matty Bovan and even Paolo Carzana, who are so uncompromising in what they do, and it's so distinct to what they do, can they build that into something long-lasting? Do they want to build that into something long-lasting? Or should we view and appreciate it for what it is within this moment in time right now?
I think that's why it's important to have like systems of support, like Paolo's with Sarah Bundy Foundation. Matty kind of has really managed to kind of get his foot in kind of collaborating with like sponsors to support the kind of whole show, which leaves him the room to be more creative, because like putting on a show is so much money.
Yeah.
And I think that's where probably the problem lies, is actually the systems around it. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I feel like as long as they have some support, and I feel like sometimes people are really good at balancing doing those external collaborations in order to get funding, and they're not, releasing their entire vision. As long as I feel that they have external support, I hope it'll allow people to be more and more creative. I feel like I wish we had that in New York as well. Like we have some people do sponsors with a Cash App with Cheetos now this season and things like that. But like when you have that funding, then you have the freedom to keep exploring. But also it's worth considering which longevity does that have? Because it's just like sponsorship out there as well. Or like it's, I don't know. I just wish there was more infrastructure.
But I think that's my question with it is like, what's the end goal? Like, what's the end goal for a really amazing creative like Matty Bovan, or someone incredibly romantic and sentimental like Paolo Carzana, to create these collections that are captivating and beautiful, but really live within the context of this event, this show? Will they live beyond that? Will they trickle down into wardrobes if it continues to be this uncompromised?
That's what I think maybe is the problem, is that for many different reasons, including kind of consumerism and blah, 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 but that's a whole different conversation. But it's like now the expectation is that designer equals brand, and like it must be about this kind of whole brand conglomerate thing. And, I was even thinking about this with Sarah Barton recently announcing she's leaving the Queen, and so many people I've spoken to were like, let's just let the Queen kind of lie as a brand with its legacy. But that's never going to happen because of the name McQueen now, but it will never recapture what it once was, And I'm thinking about Paolo, who has such a pure form of his work in the body, and it's very
handmade, it's him, there's this personal touch as a craftsperson that becomes so evident when you see these clothes walking down the runway, that is so vastly different to the mass consumerism that I think has engulfed fashion, that it is incredibly beautiful. It's just whether or not that is fashion.
And it's like, that's not about creating, like Paolo's not about creating kind of look in the same way that, say, Knowles is, which is like a look that you can kind of create yourself, if you know what I mean. Like Paolo's is very much like these one-of-one pieces. And I think it's such a shame that when this industry, which then tries to funnel people all through the same thing, it's like, you must be a brand.
Yeah.
It kind of confines people to like, especially people who are more creative like that, to like either do like a diffusion line like the Hussein line, like very, very like artistic work, and then you have to work with like diffusion lines and things like that. And obviously sometimes people want to do that because they want to speak to the mass audience in a way that they can relate to these more like experimental or like craftsmanship oriented designs. But it's like, then it just creates a standard and kind of limits what people can do. And I think the only other option is like changing how people think, but I don't know. There's no way to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe there is. Not being very hopeful.
Is there anything else we want to talk about? I feel like we've covered a lot. No? Okay. Well, thank you for watching, and we will see you. What's next, Milan? We'll see you in Milan. Bye.